Everyone on the Reddick plantation believed the same thing. No slave ever escapes. Not alive. But when a 10-year-old boy disappeared for 7 days, only to return with eyes that looked older than death itself, the owners realized something terrifying. He hadn't escaped. He had seen something. And it followed him back. 1854, Georgia. The earth was always hot, the air always heavy, and the screams always fresh. But among the slaves working those fields was a small boy with quiet footsteps and watchful eyes. Silas. Silas was different. Not strong. Not loud. Just different. People whispered about him when they thought he wasn't listening. That boy hears things. He wakes at night like something calls his name. Eyes too sharp, for a child that young. Silas never understood why he heard those distant whispers. Voices that seemed to float through the dirt, rustle inside the trees, or echo from places no one else could see. Every night, just before he fell asleep, a faint sound slipped into his ears. Sometimes it was like a woman crying, sometimes like a man begging, and sometimes, like the earth itself was mumbling secrets. But one voice always rose above the others. Low, distant, cold. Come. Silas never told anyone. Who would believe a child? That evening was strange from the start. No frogs. No crickets. No wind. Just a choking silence pressing down on the entire plantation. Even the owners felt it. Master Reddick stood on his porch with a lantern, staring into the fields as if expecting something to crawl out of them. Inside the slave cabins, Silas couldn't sleep. The voice was louder that night. Clear. Right behind his ear. Come. He sat up. His heart thudding like a fist against his ribs. Outside his window, the old smokehouse stood crooked and broken. The place where, decades ago, slaves were punished in the dark. No one went near it. But tonight, its half-open door was gently rocking. Back and forth, as if breathing. Silas's feet touched the ground before he even realized he was moving. Barefoot. Shaking. Drawn forward by a force he didn't understand. The closer he walked, the colder the air became. Unnatural cold, like winter hiding under the dirt. He reached the smokehouse. The shadow inside was thick, swallowing the last bit of daylight. He pushed the door. Carrr. A long, aching creak stretched into the darkness. Silas stepped inside. The door slammed behind him. He gasped and spun around, but the wood wouldn't budge. His small hands pressed against it. No use. It felt like something was holding it shut from the outside. Then, silence. A deep, ringing silence that filled his ears. Silas turned slowly. The floorboards beneath him vibrated. Not shaking. Breathing. Light seeped through the cracks. A sickly, pulsing glow, rising from beneath the floor like a heartbeat buried underground. Silas tried to step back, but he couldn't. His feet were stuck to the floor as if the wood had turned to hands. His breath came out fast, painful. Then a whisper slid right beside his ear. Close enough to feel its coldness on his neck. You deserve to know what they hide. Silas's eyes rolled back, and darkness swallowed him whole. Morning came with screams. Silas's bed was empty. The cabin window wide open. 3 long scratch marks carved deep into the frame. Master Reddick went wild with rage. No boy disappears, he shouted. Search the swamps. Search the woods. Find him. For 7 days they looked. Dogs found nothing. Men found nothing. Not even footprints. By day 4 the slaves whispered. Maybe he went where the others went, the ones who never came back. By day 6 no one slept. They heard noises at night. Soft tapping beneath the ground, like small fingers hitting the dirt, and sometimes a child's laugh. On the 7th night, just before the moon rose, the smokehouse door creaked open on its own. Slowly, softly, like something was stepping aside. A small figure walked out. Thin, dirty, silent. It was Silas. But not Silas. His eyes weren't the eyes of a child anymore. They were hollow, deep, filled with an old darkness. The kind that belonged to graves, not boys. His shirt was torn. His arms were scratched with symbols no one recognized. His feet were covered in dried mud mixed with something darker. He stood in front of everyone. The slaves, the overseers, even Master Reddick. And in a voice that was not entirely his, he said, I saw what you buried. I know who screams under your land. Reddick staggered back, face drained of blood. Silas lifted his head slowly, and whispered the last sentence that froze every soul on that plantation. They're not done with you. Silas's return should have brought relief, but instead it brought fear. The first thing people noticed was the silence. Not his silence. That was normal. but the silence around him. The crickets stopped. The wind withdrew. Even the dogs refused to go near him, tucking their tails and whining whenever he passed. It was as if the world itself was holding its breath. That night, as Silas sat alone outside the slave cabins, staring blankly at the dirt, the others gathered a short distance away, whispering in low, trembling voices. His eyes ain't right. He's breathing, but something else came back with him. He walks like he's listening to someone we can't hear. An older woman named Mabel, who had lived on the plantation longer than anyone alive, clutched the small wooden cross hanging from her neck. That boy, she said, voice shivering, has touched a place the living ain't meant to see. Master Reddick couldn't sleep. Silas's words kept playing in his mind. I know who screams under your land. At sunrise, he stormed toward the cabins and shouted, Bring me the boy. 2 men dragged Silas forward. But the child didn't resist. He simply stood there, blinking slowly, like he was waking from a long dream. Reddick crouched down, gripping Silas's chin hard. Where did you go? Who helped you escape? Silas's small voice came out flat. Emotionless. I didn't escape. Then how did you survive 7 nights alone? Silas lifted his eyes. Because I wasn't alone. A cold shiver ran down Reddick's spine. But he didn't let go. Who was with you? Silas answered without blinking. The ones you buried. Reddick froze. Only one person on the plantation knew what that meant. Him. His grandfather. His father. And he himself. The Reddick men had all hidden something under this soil. Something they had sworn would never come to light. Reddick's voice cracked. What did they tell you? Silas leaned close enough that Reddick felt the child's cold breath on his cheek. They showed me the place where your family kept the people who never came back. They showed me the pit. The chains. The names carved into the wood. Reddick staggered backward, face pale as chalk. No child should have known about that. No living soul should have known. Silas whispered. You cannot bury screams. They live. Mabel, horrified but brave, stepped forward after Reddick left Silas on the ground. Child, she said gently, lift your sleeves. Silas shook his head. Please, baby. Let me see. He slowly raised his arms. Everyone gasped. His skin was covered in long, thin scratches. But not random ones. They formed symbols, circles, lines, and something that looked like names, carved into his flesh. Mabel touched one with trembling fingers. My God, this ain't human work. Silas didn't flinch. I didn't fight them. They wanted me to remember. Remember what? A long silence. Then, the way down. Chills crawled up every spine. That night the plantation felt wrong. The lamps flickered too fast. The shadows moved too slowly. And the smokehouse, the place Silas had vanished, made sounds no building should make. Thumping. Scratching. A dragging noise. Around midnight, Mabel found Silas standing alone outside, staring at the smokehouse with unblinking eyes. Why are you out here, baby? She whispered. Silas didn't look away. They're talking. Mabel's voice trembled. Who? The ones underground. A cold wind blew through the trees, though nothing else in the night moved. Mabel stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. Silas, what did you see down there? The boy finally turned toward her. His face was pale under the moonlight, his lips dry, voice scraping like gravel. I saw where they keep the broken ones. Mabel swallowed hard. And what did they want from you? Silas blinked once, and his voice changed. Deeper, older, filled with echo. They want justice. Mabel stumbled back. Silas's head tilted slightly as if he heard something she didn't. And then, softly. They're not resting. They never were. The next morning, Reddick gathered his overseers in the big house. His voice shook, though he tried to hide it. That boy is lying. He wants attention. But no one looked convinced. One overseer finally asked, Sir, did something really happen on this land? Something buried? Reddick slammed his fist on the table. You will not speak of that. Just then a sound echoed outside the window. A soft tapping against the wall. Everyone froze. Reddick opened the door. Nothing outside. Only dusty ground. But as he stepped back inside, his eyes widened. On the wall, in small muddy fingerprints, was a single word. Under. The room fell silent. Someone whispered, Sir, the boy's right. Something's under us. Reddick's face twisted with panic. If anyone speaks to that child again, they'll be punished. But deep down he knew. Silas had uncovered the one secret the Reddick family thought they had taken to the grave. And now the dead wanted their turn to speak. The third day after Silas's return began with something no one could explain. At dawn, the slaves found fresh footprints outside the smokehouse. But not Silas's. These were larger, heavier, barefoot. And each print sank into the dirt deeper than a man's weight should allow. Someone whispered, "Those ain't from the living." The air grew colder, though the sun was rising. Silas barely slept, and when he did, he dreamed of the same place. A narrow wooden stairway leading into the earth, lit by a sickly amber glow. In the dreams he always heard the same sounds. Chains rattling, mud shifting, and a faint whisper calling his name. But last night the dream changed. He didn't just hear them. He saw them. A line of shadowy figures standing in the darkness. Thin, silent, their faces hidden in the gloom. One lifted an arm and pointed upward. "Tell them." The voice echoed through the dream like wind inside a cave. Silas woke gasping, his shirt damp with sweat, though the room itself was ice cold. He whispered into the dark, "I'm trying." By midday the workers returned from the fields, shaken and pale. "Ground's movin'," one said. "At first I thought it was an earthquake," another added. But it wasn't. Every time someone stepped anywhere near the smokehouse, the earth gave a low, groaning sound, like something shifting beneath the soil. Sometimes it felt like the ground was breathing. Soon no one dared go near that side of the plantation, except Silas. He walked straight to the smokehouse door, placed a hand on the wood, and closed his eyes. The others watched from a distance, terrified. Then Silas whispered, "They're awake." Mabel, trembling, rushed forward and pulled him back. "Baby, don't go near that place. You don't belong down there." Silas looked at her with calm, ancient eyes. "I already went." That evening, Master Reddick shut himself in his study, drinking heavily, trying to quiet the panic rising in his chest. Silas's words twisted in his mind. "I know who screams under your land." He tried to convince himself the boy was lying, or sick, or manipulated. But when he looked out the window, something made his blood run cold. There, in the middle of the yard, stood a figure, small, still, facing the house. At first, Reddick thought it was Silas. But the lantern inside reflected on the figure's skin. Skin that wasn't flesh at all. It looked damp, mud-coated. And the face was smeared in shadow, features impossible to make out. Reddick blinked. The figure vanished. His glass fell from his hand and shattered. He whispered into the empty room. No, not again. Because he had seen that figure once before, when he was a boy, standing at that same spot. On the night his father locked him indoors and said, "Stay away from the ground, boy. Some things don't stay buried." Just after sunset, Silas walked quietly into the yard. Dozens of slaves followed him, keeping their distance, unsure whether to fear him or protect him. "What are you looking for, Silas?" someone asked. Silas didn't answer. Instead, he knelt and pressed his ear to the dirt. He stayed like that for a long moment. Then he whispered, "They're arguing." "Who's arguing?" Mabel asked. Silas lifted his head. "The ones below. Some want revenge. Some want freedom. And some." His voice trembled for the first time since his return. "Some just want to tell the truth." "Truth about what?" Mabel asked gently. Silas turned his eyes toward the big house in the distance. "The truth the Reddick men killed to hide." The crowd went dead silent. Later that night, Mabel found Silas sitting outside alone again. His arms were bare, his sleeves rolled up. And new symbols, fresh ones, had appeared on his skin. Long cuts, thin but precise, shaped like small letters or marks. Mabel gasped. "Child, who did this to you?" Silas looked down at his arms. "They're not hurting me. They're writing." Mabel choked on her breath. "Writing what?" Silas traced one of the new marks with his finger. "A name." "A name of who?" Silas looked at her, voice quiet but steady. "A name of someone they buried before they built the house." Mabel staggered back. Her voice cracked. "Baby, how do you know?" Silas whispered. "I saw her. She held my hand." The wind blew suddenly, sharp and cutting. Mabel covered her mouth. The slaves behind her murmured in terror. Someone finally said it. "What if the boy didn't come back alone?" Silas stood up slowly. His eyes were distant, glowing faintly in the moonlight. "They followed me. They chose me. Because I can hear the earth when it cries." Just before midnight, the smokehouse door began to knock. From the inside. Not fast. Not loud. Just 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. People rushed to their windows, frozen in fear. Silas walked toward the sound as if in a trance. Mabel ran after him, grabbing his arm. Silas, don't. He looked at her gently. They're calling for me. Why? She cried. Silas whispered. To show me the truth. And what truth is that? Silas stepped closer to the smokehouse and placed his hand on the door. His voice dropped to a soft, chilling murmur. The truth of who they really killed. Elias did not sleep that night. Long after the bells in the big house stopped ringing, long after the overseers finished their rounds, he sat on the edge of his thin straw bed, staring at the old door as if something might push it open at any moment. Because something had followed him home. Not a creature. Not a man. Not a ghost. But a presence. Something heavy and invisible that pressed on his chest each time he tried to breathe. Something that whispered without sound. Something that had lived in that underground chamber long before he ever stepped into it. He hugged himself, shaking. The other boys in the slave quarters slept quietly, unaware. They hadn't seen the runes burned into the wall. They hadn't heard the chanting echoing in the dark. They didn't know that the ground beneath the plantation hid a secret more dangerous than any whip or master. Elias closed his eyes. And immediately the voice came again. Return to the door. His eyes snapped open, heart pounding. No, he whispered. I can't go back. But he knew deep down he would have to. The plantation woke before dawn as always. Overseers shouting. Horses snorting. Chains clacking. The smell of wet earth and cut sugarcane filling the air. But everyone noticed one thing immediately. Mr. Harrow was gone. Vanished. The other half of the plantation staff murmured in fear. The master never leaves without telling someone. Maybe he went into town. No, someone checked. His horse is still here. Elias felt cold. He knew the truth. Mr. Harrow had gone back to the underground chamber, the place Elias had discovered during his disappearance. And he had not returned. By noon, everyone was whispering. Boy, the head overseer barked, grabbing Elias by the arm. You were the last one he talked to. What did you tell him? Elias's throat dried. He couldn't say anything. If he mentioned the chamber, they'd hurt him. If he stayed silent, they would still blame him. The overseer's grip tightened hard. But before he could speak, an elderly woman stepped forward from the slave quarters. Leave the child, she said sharply. It was Mama Rue, the oldest woman on the plantation. Everyone feared her a little. She knew herbs, stories, superstitions, things the masters called superstition but secretly respected. The overseer let go reluctantly. Mama Rue stared deep into Elias's eyes, reading something no one else could see. You carry a shadow on you, she murmured. What did you wake up, boy? Elias shook his head. I didn't wake anything. It woke me. Her face hardened. That's worse. By evening, strange things started happening. Dogs howled at nothing. Crows circled endlessly over the field. The wind blew without moving the trees. And the air inside the big house felt impossibly cold. Rumors spread fast. Someone put a curse on the land. Mr. Harrow was taken by spirits. The boy brought something back with him. Elias overheard two men talking. That child didn't return normal. His eyes, there's something wrong with them. He touched his face, terrified. His eyes felt normal to him. But when he caught his reflection in a water bucket later, he froze. His pupils looked different. Not fully black. Not fully normal. Almost as if a faint ring of gold shimmered around the edges, like the runes in the chamber. He stumbled backward, trembling. Whatever lived down there had marked him. That night, Mama Rue pulled him aside behind the smokehouse, where no overseer would listen. Tell me everything, she demanded. Elias hesitated, but her expression was not gentle. It was urgent. So he told her. Not everything, but enough. About the underground door. About the chanting. About the runes that glowed when he touched them. About the silence that was not silent. About the presence that crawled under his skin. Mama Rue's face paled. Child, do you know what that place is? Elias shook his head. It's older than this plantation, she whispered. Older than the town. Older than the people who built these houses. She crouched lower. It is a prison. Elias's blood went cold. A prison for what? For something even the old tribes feared. Something meant to stay buried. Elias felt the night around them grow colder. Mr. Harrow went into that prison, Mama Rue continued, and he set something loose. Elias swallowed hard. Did I bring it out? No, she said. You were chosen. He stepped back. Chosen for what? Mama Rue did not answer immediately. Instead, she gripped his shoulders. Listen to me. Whatever is following you, whatever is whispering to you, it wants you to come back. Do not go. Elias lowered his head. I don't think I have a choice. When the plantation finally fell silent and the night thickened, Elias sat awake again, staring at the door. Then, knock. A soft, hollow knock. Once, twice, 3 times. He froze. No one knocked on a slave child's door at midnight. Slowly the door creaked open. A tall silhouette stood in the darkness outside. Then, shaking, Elias gasped. It was Mr. Harrow. But he was not the same. His eyes glowed faintly. His skin looked drained, almost gray. His mouth moved but no sound came out. Elias whispered, terrified. Sir, what happened to you? Mr. Harrow slowly raised a hand and pointed at Elias's chest. Then, in a hoarse, broken whisper that did not sound human, he spoke. You should not have come back. And then he collapsed at Elias's feet. Mr. Harrow lay motionless on the dirt floor of the slave quarters. Elias didn't dare move. Didn't dare breathe. The master's body looked wrong, stretched, drained, as if something had hollowed him from the inside and left only the shell. Slowly the man's chest rose once more. Elias nearly screamed. His eyes snapped open. Not white. Not human. Glowing with the same faint golden ring Elias had seen in his own reflection. Mr. Harrow's lips trembled. Help me. The voice was his, but layered with a second, deeper one echoing beneath it. Elias crawled backward until his shoulders hit the wall. I can't help you. A terrible silence filled the room. Then Mr. Harrow whispered. You open the seal. Elias shook his head violently. I didn't open anything. But the runes on the underground walls. The way they lit up under his hand. The whisper that said return, return, return. Had he done something without knowing? Mr. Harrow dragged himself closer on shaking hands. You woke it. It needs you to finish what you started. Elias's heart pounded. Finish what? Mr. Harrow's face twisted with terror. To escape. Outside, sudden screams tore through the night. Elias ran to the door and froze. Lights flickered inside the big house. Shadows twisted unnaturally along the walls. Doors slammed open one by one. The overseers rushed out in confusion, lanterns in hand. What's happening? Who's in the house? Where is everyone? Several of the staff tried to enter the mansion, then stumbled back out, white-faced. The rooms are empty, one shouted. Everyone inside is gone. Elias felt cold dread wash over him. Whatever had followed him back from the underground chamber, whatever had touched Mr. Harrow, it was now moving through the plantation. Mama Rue grabbed Elias by the wrist. We must go now. But Elias pulled away. No. If I run, it will follow me. She stared at him with heartbreak. Child? I'm the reason this is happening, he whispered. I'm the one it wants. With the plantation turning chaotic behind them, Mama Rue dragged him behind the barn. You deserve the truth, she said. She lifted the necklace she always wore, an old wooden charm carved with a spiral symbol. This land was sacred long before the plantation was built, she explained. The tribes knew there was a spirit beneath it. Not a demon. Not an angel. Something in between. A binding spirit, she said softly. A watcher. Elias swallowed. Watcher of what? Of doors, she replied. Doors between the living world and the one below it. Elias shook his head. Why me? Mama Rue hesitated. Because the Watcher chooses children. Young souls. Soft minds. It uses them to strengthen the seal. She looked up at him, grief heavy in her eyes. Or to break it. Elias felt his stomach drop. Am I supposed to break it? Her silence was answer enough. A sudden roar echoed through the fields. Not an animal sound. Not human. Something deep, vibrating through the ground. Mama Rue pushed Elias behind her. Get back. But it wasn't the creature emerging. It was Mr. Harrow, sprinting toward them, stumbling, half-possessed. His voice cracked. Don't take him. Take me. A shadow slid across the field behind him, long, thin, and impossibly tall. Mama Rue grabbed Elias. Run. But Elias didn't move. He was done running. He stepped forward. The shadow towered above them. The air grew colder and colder until his breath frosted. The ground trembled. The sky darkened. Then a voice, neither spoken nor heard, filled Elias's mind. Finish the door. Free me. His knees buckled. Mama Rue screamed, resist it. Child, resist. But it was stronger than thought, stronger than fear, stronger than anything Elias had ever known. His vision blurred. His heartbeat slowed. His body felt pulled, stretched, drained, the way Mr. Harrow had looked. Elias, Mama Rue whispered, voice shaking. You must choose. The shadow's tendrils wrapped around Elias's wrists. Not physical. Not visible. But unmistakably real. Images flashed in his mind. The underground chamber. The golden runes. The sealed stone door he had touched. The 7 days he vanished. 7 days he couldn't remember. And then he saw it. His younger self standing before the sealed door, placing both palms on it, and whispering, "Wake up." Elias gasped. He had opened it long ago. The Watcher had marked him as a child. Now it wanted him to finish the job. But Elias realized something. If he opened the second seal, the Watcher would be free. The plantation would fall. The world beyond would feel its hunger. He took a shaking breath. "No," he whispered. The shadow froze. Elias raised his head. "I won't free you." A howl of rage split the night. The ground cracked. Wind blasted the fields. The big house windows shattered. But Elias stood firm, even as the force crushed against him. "I am not your vessel," he said. "You chose me, but I choose myself." The shadow recoiled, screeching in a voice that shook the earth. The light. Blinding, golden light exploded from Elias's chest. Mama Rue shielded her face. Mr. Harrow collapsed. The shadow shrieked as it was pulled backward, dragged into the earth it had escaped from. The crack in the soil glowed like molten gold, then sealed. Silence fell. The wind calmed. The air warmed. The plantation stood still. Mr. Harrow lay unconscious but breathing. Mama Rue knelt beside Elias. "Child, are you still here?" Elias blinked up at her. "I'm here." She touched his cheek gently. "You did what no grown soul could. You chose the world over yourself." He nodded weakly. "My 7 days. I think it wanted me even back then." "But you fought it," she whispered. "And you won." Elias looked toward the fields, quiet, peaceful, as if nothing supernatural had touched them. "Is it gone forever?" he asked. Mama Rue hesitated. "No spirit is ever gone," she said softly. "But the seal is stronger now. Because you refused it." Elias gazed at the horizon. For the first time he did not feel the presence behind him. No whispers. No shadows. Only the night. Only the wind. Only freedom. A freedom he had earned. A freedom no one could take again.